Well, for the staff that was supposed to be fixing that pantry, it was like Sellers' Reign of Terror. One staff member had been sent out to the store to bring stuff back. When she came back, one of the items on her list was baking soda. She bought the store brand baking soda because Arm & Hammer, the brand that Meghan prefers, was sold out. Meghan had a meltdown. What are you telling me about this generic brand? Are you for real right now? No, I'm being triggered. See, because when I was young, we were very poor and we were only able to buy the generic brand. And so when I see a generic brand, I am very triggered by that. What is she even saying to me right now? Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. Well, it's Friday. It's a good day for all of us. We all love the Friday News Roundup. I love this one because we get to talk about all kinds of interesting things and we can go from high to high to high. I do, before we get into it, want to tell you that if you are not listening to the book that we're reading together during the week, my friend, I implore you to get on it. These revelations are by far some of the greatest revelations in any biography I've ever read, and I've read some good ones on this channel. I am floored daily when I bring you new information. The last episode, I titled it this, You Are Not Ready for This, and let me tell you, you are not. Okay, we started that episode out like this. After she learned of Starkey's failed suicide attempt, Sarah asked him, should he try again to kill himself for a final service for her? When you're dead, would you find JFK and explain to him that I am destined to marry John and become the First Lady of the United States? Can you imagine finding out that somebody, one of your quote-unquote dear friends, had tried to commit suicide and your response is, okay, well, if you try again and die, please go and find John F. Kennedy and tell him that I'm supposed to marry his son and help him to orchestrate that. She's literally already married to somebody else. And she wants her hurting friend to go and make deals for her in the next life should his suicide attempt not fail. Wow, that is a whole nother level of delusional. What? Okay, so if you were not tuning in, I implore you, go back, catch up. We are 7 episodes in now, so there's a nice tidy chunk of something to listen to. And I have to tell you, the world's a crazy place. It's just really nice to just get out and go somewhere else. You know, when you're like scrolling and scrolling, and like, I gotta find something to listen to. I gotta find something to listen to. I hate everything that there is to listen to. This is your new relief point, okay? Now, it's also quite fortuitous because who should be in the news but Fergie herself? We're not done with Fergie shenanigans, let me just tell you right now. Fergie had a relationship with Epstein, not surprisingly, because so did her sorry husband. But what has come to light now is that after she publicly rebuked him, publicly distanced herself, wanted nothing to do with him, we find out that not only was she still friends with him, she wrote him emails referring to him as a supreme friend. I don't know anybody who I would call a supreme friend who is also soliciting the services of a minor. The other crushing point here for Fergie is that all of her charities have revolved around helping children. Children's homes, orphanages, let's help the kids with disabilities, let's help the kids with chronic illness. But I guess she's not too worried about helping the children stay away from Epstein because she can't cozy up to him fast enough. So this email resurfaces. It's from 2011 after she had publicly distanced herself. And she is now trying to say, well, I mean, I had to. He was talking about suing me for defamation. You know, he was putting pressure on me. I had to go and I was forced to write it, you know, and in the email, she is like, I'm sorry, I never called you the P word, pedophile. And, you know, I've always counted you a supreme friend. You've always been there for me. And what's really fortunate for us is that we have the author of the book that we're reading entitled has, of course, been the person everyone's running to. Let's go talk to Andrew Lowney. Andrew Lowney knows. He's been researching this for 4 years. So here was a clip of him talking about the validity of this now apology. You know, this her coming out and being like, you just don't understand. You misunderstand the situation. Let me explain it to you. Because he says you can't believe a word she says.
I found that in the course of my 4 years of research, I had to question everything she said in public. You couldn't believe a word she said. I've just been able to reveal today that she was actually in touch with Epstein for years afterwards, staying in his flats. So, you know, this apology was, I have to say, not entirely genuine.
I think the other thing, too, that is really upsetting about this entire thing is that she claims she only ever took $15,000 from Epstein. That there was some exchange of money, but it was just gifts of $15,000. $15,000. She spends more than that on a shopping spree, as we talked about in the last episode. This is a person who would drop 25,000 pounds at Bloomingdale's in an hour of shopping. 15,000. I mean, you would not have bothered with Epstein if all he had to offer you was 15,000. Why would you write a big apology letter to that guy? I mean, basically all he did was fund you a lunch. Andrew Lowney has come out to say that it's way closer to $2 million.
Certainly the sum of £15,000 that she seems to have sort of squandered a reputation on, I think is a lot larger than that. I mean, the figures I've been given is more like £2 million that Epstein gave her.
$2 million? $2 million? This man? You are in debt to Epstein at the cost of $2 million? I am telling you this much right now. Her connection to Epstein cannot be studied long and hard enough. Well, all these charities, they don't want to bother anymore. She, quite frankly, wasn't doing much for them anyway. She has consistently used charities as a means for her to get a leg up in society and for her to rehab her terrible, terrible reputation, one that she has soul created on her own. She can blame no one for the fact that she has no respect. You guys, if you ever thought that Sarah Ferguson was the poor little lost lamb, the poor little black sheep of the family, if you just thought that the queen was giving her a hard time, that everybody didn't understand her free spirit, I am telling you, tune into this book. She is, without a doubt, the most out of control person I have ever read about. Zero class, no idea about self-preservation, no desire for self-preservation. She can't wait to burn it down fast enough. She spends like there's no tomorrow. She's using and abusing everybody. In yesterday's reading, we had an incident where she asked someone, can I borrow $100,000 from you? I want to go on a vacation to the south of France. The friend inexplicably lent it to her. Then when the friend was like, hey, are you going to pay that back? She had the gall to say, well, here's $5,000, but I thought the rest was a gift. Do you see what I'm saying? This is a very, very dishonest person. So if she wants to come waddling out to tell you that I just wrote that email under duress, I had to say something, he was about to sue me for defamation, don't believe it. Don't believe it. All right, let's talk about some other people that are 110% confused about all things. We got a couple of heavy hitters here. We're going to talk about Kanye because it's obvious he's been delusional for a while, but we're really starting to see some extreme examples of why I don't even blame Kim Kardashian for being like, I need to get out of this abuse. After you see the way that Kanye is screaming at his family in the most recent documentary that's come out, he's had a friend who's followed him for years now, filming literally everything. I have to tell you that I can't even believe that Kim Kardashian ever agreed to have children with this man. That's where I blame her. Because his wild behavior is not somebody that I would want to procreate with. Makes sense why she wanted to get a surrogate. Can you imagine being like, together, you and I, let us create a baby? I mean, I would never want to go near this man with a 10-foot pole. So no wonder she involved a third party. But why in the world would you have 4 kids with this crazy lunatic? Have you guys seen these clips? Let's watch a couple. This is him freaking out on Chris because Chris is like, I think you should be medicated, and he does not want to be medicated.
I'd rather be dead than to be on medication. No one from the family has taken any responsibility for my hospital visit, but if we were to go on mine, that's 50% of what people say at least. Am I lying? It do matter! It does matter! It does matter!
What morally you just said, yo?
I have to finish the sentence.
It does matter!
It matters to us and you. It doesn't matter what the internet says. It matters what we think. Yay.
So what do you think? Did you have an effect on my mental health?
Yes, I'm saying yes.
Okay, I totally understand his fear of medication. There's so much out there, so much conflicting talk about whether these actually help you, whether they don't help you, whether science has even progressed far enough for this to actually be a thing that they could know you would need. How do they measure the chemicals in your brain? They tell you have a chemical imbalance, but no, there's no tests. How do you know I do? How do you know I just don't have a really bad personality and I'm just kind of throwing a fit? You know what I mean? How do we know? Anyway, I don't know anything about these medications. I'm not on them. So if you know a lot about them or you're on them, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I understand why he felt like he had to come in guns blazing because he felt like he had to defend himself against people who were trying to force him to do a thing to his body he didn't want to do. And I feel like And I don't think this is too harsh to say. His response is the response that you would have if you felt like somebody was coming to physically assault you in a sexual way. His response is the response that you would have if I don't want my mind to be assaulted. You know, like in the same panic you would feel if somebody was coming aggressively towards you and like, I'm going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? You meet a guy in a dark alley or a girl walking home and some guy jumps out and he says, I want to hurt you. Your response would be extreme. Kanye's response is like, do not psychologically rape me. Do you know what I mean? He's scared. He's fighting for his life. So I understand this is a like big dramatic moment. But it also feels like this is his response, even when the moment does not warrant this. Okay. I understand that he felt people are trying to medicate me and it's going to take away my gifting and all of this. I can understand feeling scared about that, feeling like my health was no longer in my control and the way I wanted to deal with it, people were trying to take that out of my hands. I get that. But he also just feels like a person who is utterly out of control. Look at his response. Somebody said something about Trump or something like that. And I guess at that time he was supporting Trump and he didn't like what was being said. Kim is weeping and like, why are you throwing fits? People tell me no all the time. I don't just cry about it. And I mean, he's like stomping his foot. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He looks like a fool.
You can't take my mama! You, not you! You can't mama! You put yourself in the family and they were being murdered! Okay, we'll go home!
But at some point, it's a reality that people say no. People say no to me on a daily basis, and I will just start screaming and throwing a tantrum. That's just not normal.
That's my personality.
But your personality was not like this a few years ago.
Like, this is not the way a man in control, with wisdom, with composure, would have a conversation. People are always saying he's like this big genius, this big artist, this force that cannot be stopped. And I'm like, his greatest FU is to sing a song about Hitler. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, the people are like, yeah, well, these aren't his genius moments. He had some genius moments. I don't know, did he? He had a couple of beats, you know? I know that he liked to make clothes and stuff, but you know, I was never really sold on any of the things he was making. Like, I never thought they were like revolutionary as far as fashion goes. I always felt like he was a really good hype man for himself and people bought into his hype, but I was always like, show the proof. You know? Anyway, this tantrum is degrading to him as a man. And I don't understand ever. I can understand, like, I can understand internally feeling this angry that you could stomp your feet. Like, I understand being so angry and feeling people are not understanding and not caring, that you could internally feel this angry. I just don't know that externally, at the point in life that he is, that I don't see how he ever got this far if this is the way he handles things. And according to Kim, he wasn't like this before. You know, and that's why she wants him on the medication, because she feels like he needs to be brought back, like something is wrong here. What a horrible place to find yourself in, where you married this guy who you thought was this big creative, you have kids with him, and then this is who he ends up becoming over the course of things. Talk about a living hell. And I would have left that guy as fast as I could. I mean, this is a frightening energy. What if the kids did something he doesn't like? What's it going to do to them? This is the way he's talking to his equals. What would he do to a child who is not his equal, who he could instantly crush? And even if he weren't to physically hurt the kids or something like that. Imagine being a little kid and having your dad freak out on you like this because you messed something up. You know, is it possible that they would have faced this kind of wrath? Maybe not when they're little kids, when it's like, oh, they're so innocent, they're so little. But what about when they start sassing you when they hit middle school? Are you still going to think that they're so cute, or are you going to want to get back at them? You know, are you going to want to hurt their feelings because they hurt yours? Like, that's a level of maturity here. I can only imagine the tit for tats that would be going on with him and his teenagers, you know? Golly. Let's talk about somebody else who just displayed full-on psychosis this week. And it makes me super angry for her and for her sake that her parents are allowing her to live in this level of fear. That is Violet Affleck. Violet is the daughter of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. And when the pandemic hit, she was 14 years old. And it seems like it completely crushed her mentally. I don't know the way she and her family dealt with the pandemic, you know. So if they were living in California, I know everything was on lockdown and it was very, very scary environments. I mean, there were different states dealing with it in way more militaristic ways. It was much more scary. So I can imagine that while it was happening, it felt like it was everything. Like the whole world was melting down and it was a really scary place. We're 5 years removed from the height of the frenzy. And in that time, we found out a lot of things about the way that was handled and the way people were manipulated. At the time that that occurred, 2020, I remember someone very close to me telling me, yeah, I have heard that it's just a test to see what people will take. And as it's come out, that's obviously what it was, so that's not even conspiracy anymore. It was obvious to see what can we get a mass group of people to agree to. Thank God we found out that this is the world we're functioning in, because now we know what to do. Nobody has bothered to take Violet aside and explain to her it's over. That the scariness was over, and it was over amplified in order to get people to obey the government, to obey mandates. Nobody has done any work with her to help her realize it's over. She doesn't have to live with this. They're letting the PTSD take over her life. And judging on whatever experience she had, it was a very intense lockdown situation for her. Now, I don't know if she has some personal illnesses. I think I've heard that she has some chronic illness. And so for her, her health may be fragile enough that she would like people to take more precautions. I rarely see this girl without a mask on. In every tabloid picture, every paparazzi picture, anybody who ever catches her on the street, she's always got a mask on. So she's very, very vigilant about this practice. But to encourage her delusions by giving her a spot at the UN this week to talk about how the world has failed her and her peers, and being disgruntled that somebody who went through this when she was 14 is the one who has to come be the voice of reason, is so astronomically foolish. I cannot even believe that there was anybody at the UN who agreed to this. That her parents would escort her there and be so proud. The strings were pulled on her behalf. There's not anybody in middle America whose kid might be a little bit nervous about sickness and who consistently wears a mask, who would have the privilege of taking up UN time to talk about her pet project and her love for mask wearing. And to indignantly stand there and be like, you all failed us. All this is Greta Thunberg all over again. How dare you? That's all this is. But I just think it's ridiculous that grown-ass adults who know full well what the situation with COVID was and who are living in the fullness of reality would allow themselves to be talked down to by this child.
We are told by leaders across the board that we are the future. But when it comes to the ongoing pandemic, our present is being stolen right in front of our eyes. For adults, the relentless beat of back to normal, ignoring, downplaying, and concealing both the prevalence of airborne transmission and the threat of long COVID, manifested in a series of choices. Young people lacked both real choice in the matter and information about what was being chosen for us. We need the people who remember 2020, who were not like me, 14 in 2020, to be loud about the world that we were promised at the onset of the pandemic, where we and our institutions promised each other that if we only got out of that desperate acute phase, we would do everything we could to protect our communities going forward. And we need the people who are born now, we owe it to the people who are born now, that they take that world for granted.
Can't deal with it. Okay? I cannot deal with a bunch of adults letting this child talk to them like they need to be disrespected in this way. She's 19 years old. The entire world needs to keep on wearing masks. For what? So we can all breathe in our same grossness? I hated wearing masks. I hated it with everything that I am. It didn't matter how many breath mints I ate. I just don't like it. I don't want to be stuck with my hot breath. Gross. And I just can't believe that she thinks that the world is full of people who want to live the way she does. If you want to wear masks all day long, girl, more power to you. Protect yourself from the world out there. If that makes you feel better, that's fine. But it was a soulless world when everyone was walking around with a mask. It was so strange that the thing that distinguishes us so much from the next person is our face. And we had to walk around with it covered. We don't need to get into all the COVID arguments again. We live well past the stage where all of us needed to live in fear. Some of us who had medical diagnoses or chronic illness did have to be more careful. And Violet may well have fallen into that category. But for her to act as though the whole world has to act as though we have chronic illness is ridiculous. And I can't believe that they allowed the UN time to be used up with this. We have real world problems here. The United Nations needs to figure out what is going on with all of these wars popping up everywhere and all of the chaos going on and all of the immigration situations happening everywhere. We got real problems here. We can't listen to Violet talk about how the world's failed us and you guys need to do better, because why isn't everyone wearing a mask? I don't know, because we want to live. I don't know. How many of you guys found that particularly egregious? It was just annoying. Ridiculousness is what it is. Okay, let's talk about something, as long as we're talking about just feeling bewildered. I am bewildered by this footage of Simon Cowell. I have so many thoughts just rushing through my head right now. Number one, who is that man? I don't understand how he looks so different in every respect. His body looks different. His face looks different. He's not even moving like a human. He looks like he's wearing flesh gloves. Were his hands recently amputated and he was given some prosthetics? What is this? Who claps like this? But everyone's talking about the clapping, and I'm like, can we talk about his face? That's not Simon Cowell. That looks like somebody wearing a mask of Simon Cowell. Who killed Simon Cowell and is wearing him like a flesh suit? What is happening here? I mean, the clapping is weird. I mean, I'll never get over how weird the clapping is. And maybe he got on some Ozempic or something. His body doesn't look the same, but it's his face. It's his eyes. Like, what happened to his face? I don't think I've ever seen plastic surgery that is like this. And maybe this is just male plastic surgery, so that's why it feels so weird, because really, what can a man do to his face that's going to make him look better? Men are just men, you know? Yeah, I mean, some guys have like more chiseled jaw or whatever like that, but what are you really going to do? Like with women, there's like a plethora of things we can do to enhance our appearance. But because we're always trying to enhance our appearance anyway with makeup and things like that, like what's another tweak really? But for a man to have tweaks done to his face, it's like immediately obvious, because you are not changing your face on a daily basis with the amount of makeup you have on, you know? So I'm not used to your face changing so dramatically. But what is this face? Also, the eyebrows are weird. Is that Simon Cowell? I mean, I don't know why there's so many celebrities who look so dramatically different than they used to. We've talked about it multiple times. That Osborne girl, who is that? You know? Who is that? Lindsay Lohan? Who is that? You know, are these the original people? I don't know. Speaking about people whose bodies have changed dramatically and who just don't work anymore, I saw this really interesting clip. Because, you know, we talk a lot on this channel about how we need to pump the brakes on the necessity for the changing and the tweaking and the reconstruction of everything, always trying to find that perfect look. And we have all these celebrities that are just addicted to the plastic surgery and everything, and it's all just trickling down to all of us. We got to get on that Ozempic. We got to get some new boobs. My friends are doing Botox and stuff. Do I have to also? And it's just like, you guys, just let's be who we are. You know, drink a lot of water, go for a walk, just be a healthy person in general, and quit worrying so much about whether you're getting old or not. You know, it's going to happen. So quit trying to fight the inevitable and use that energy in a more positive place. But we talk about that a lot. So this conversation that I saw come up the other day was really interesting to me, because as it turns out, all of these tweaks and changes and plastic surgeries actually don't work in real life. Here's this woman. She worked for a magazine and she did a full day of shooting with Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner had an enormous impact on a whole generation. And the pressure that so many of those girls felt to be a Kylie Jenner, who claimed that her body changed dramatically because of puberty. And the rest of the world is feeling like when you hit puberty, you're like, I got hair I don't want, I got fat I don't want, my body's not the way it used to be, I got cellulite now that I didn't used to have. Like, you feel betrayed by your body. Yet her puberty produced some kind of a goddess. So there was like lots of girls who felt like they couldn't keep up with Kylie Jenner. And so to hear this person discuss what Kylie Jenner actually looks like in real life, when it's not a picture that she's posed for, it's not all touched up, it's not the perfect angle, it's not the perfect lighting. As it turns out, it's kind of a hot mess in real life.
And yeah, it was very confronting to see her in the flesh in real life, and to realize that she had crafted a face and a body that didn't quite work in real life. And it wasn't supposed to work in real life. You know, this is someone who only a handful of people will know truly in the flesh, face to face, but who millions of people know digitally. And so her face, you know, to me, from my perspective, it was very obvious that she'd had a significant amount of work done on her face and body. to me, the BBL was very obvious. It was very overt. The filler and the Botox were very overt. And it was very uncanny. She looked odd, and when she talked and when she smiled, like her face just didn't quite operate in a way that translates physically in real life. And it was a really strange day.
I found that so illuminating because there's just so many of us who believe that if we could just figure out whatever it is that the celebrities have, then we too could look as wonderful as they look. But they don't look that wonderful in real life. It's just the angle. Haven't you ever taken a picture of yourself and you looked ridiculous and fat and you're like, I know I don't look like that? Or another picture where you're turned the right way exactly and you're like, I know I don't look as thin as that. Well, all of these celebrities are just posting their perfect angled photos. As it turns out, this woman from this clip said that they had a filmed conversation as well as a series of other photographs that were never allowed to be released because in those photographs, Kylie looked like she really does in real life. And, she also looked like she does in real life on the camera. I find it really interesting that Kylie Jenner is almost never on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And I feel like it's because she's never giving permission for all of the time she's on camera that it's not, her peak performance look. People are always like, how come Kylie's never on the show? Kylie doesn't have anything to do. It's not because she's got to go to work or something. This is her work. But she doesn't want to be on, in my opinion, after watching this, because she doesn't want you to see her real body. She doesn't want to see you in what she would consider an unflattering angle. It's all about hyper-producing every image you get to see so you can continue to be jealous and feel like you're less than her. Delusional. Speaking of delusion, can we talk about Meghan and that pantry that she had on her show? I saw a clip the other day. They were talking about how maniacal Meghan was about the state of that pantry. She does talk a lot on the show about how much she loves the fact that they have every ingredient to do everything. So anything anybody ever wants to make, they've got it. Well, for the staff that was supposed to be fixing that pantry, it was like Sulla's Reign of Terror. She demanded that everything in the pantry be spaced exactly 2 centimeters apart from each other. It seems like a small space, but that's what they said, 2 centimeters apart. And one staff member had been sent out to the store to bring stuff back. When she came back, one of the items on her list was baking soda. She bought the store brand baking soda because Arm & Hammer, the brand that Meghan prefers, was sold out. Which, by the way, have you guys noticed there's no baking powder? Not baking powder, baking soda. Every time I go to buy baking soda, it's like, when did this become a rarefied item? It's been hard to find it. Anyway, it wasn't stocked at the store, Arm & Hammer, so she had to buy the generic brand. Meghan had a meltdown. What are you telling me about this generic brand? Are you for real right now? No, I'm being triggered. See, because when I was young, we were very poor and we were only able to buy the generic brand. And so when I see a generic brand, I am very triggered by that. It feels like you're not honoring what I asked you. I told you what I wanted, and then you brought me back something I didn't want. And now I'm triggered and now I'm angry. The thing that's so bogus about this is that there's nothing in that pantry that has its original label on it. Every single thing they used on that episode had to be decanted because there's no brand sponsoring on this. So everything had to be in a new container. So the viewer has zero idea what kind of baking soda that is. Baking soda is baking soda. It's not like the generic brand tastes different than the Arm & Hammer. It's the exact same substance. It has to be name brand only. I'm being triggered right now because of my poor childhood. What is she even saying to me right now? And also, what an elitist statement. I can't have the store brand. I have enough money now to actually get the real thing. The real thing is the same thing. All of these generic brands are manufactured at the exact same locations as the name brand. Meghan should know that since she's had to find sources who will, put her boxed wine into glass bottles, since she has to have somebody to make all of her runny jam, her dry biscuits, her old teas. She knows this. She knows that it's the big brands she's had to go to who will then make her teas. Her tea is made by a big brand, and they've just boxed it up into the as ever. So for her to act like I can only have name brand, but the name brand isn't even evident to anybody. It's literally going to end up being a jar with baking soda in it on the pantry shelf. That lady's crazy. I wish to God that somebody would finally just rebel against the non-disclosure agreement. I know that there would be legal ramifications, so it's not worth whatever that would cost in the end. But it makes me furious that there's so many stories like this one that we're never going to know. that would give us a much fuller picture, because she wants to sit there all calmly and composed on all her little interviews and acts like she's just like this sweet mom that just likes to make jam and just wants to give people a good time and joy, joy, joy down in my heart. But meanwhile, you're flipping out at somebody saying that they traumatized you with the off-brand baking soda. Get a life. Somebody else who needs to get a life is Serena Williams. You guys, listen to this. Serena Williams decided that she was going to have a complete and total meltdown because she went to a New York City hotel. And in that hotel, they had a decoration, like a big vase. And in the vase was stalks of cotton. I have a big vase on my buffet in my dining room that has cotton in it. It's really pretty. I love it. I've had that for years. She can't handle it. Oh, why might that be, you ask yourself? I don't understand. What's the connection? Why would anybody be angry about cotton? It's a plant. And your clothes are made out of it. Well, because it's racist, don't you see? Because the slaves picked cotton. So as you can see, this New York City hotel has it out for black people. They're trying to remind you of what it used to be in this country. Every time you pass that cotton, you got to feel bad. You got to feel bad if you're a white person because white people own the plantations. You also have to feel bad if you're a black person because some of your ancestors might have had to pick that. You guys, cotton is a really beautiful plant. It looks really pretty, especially as a fall decoration. I love it. How badly do you want to hurt? That you would walk through the world and look at things and think, I never had to pick cotton a day in my life, and neither did my most recent ancestors. But one time, somebody that I was related to might have had to. So now I have to take on the burden of that and be offended. Can you imagine, like, the work that it would take to walk through the world and, like, look for opportunities to be offended and hurt? The emotional energy that you would expend trying to constantly find and involve yourself in hurt and pain that had nothing to do with you and actually wasn't a painful situation. The way you would have to manipulate the world to walk around to fill up your quota of pain that day. Speaking about people who just feel like the world is too hard a place to bear and we need to change our language in order for us to be able to bear up under it, that would be PETA. As it would turn out, PETA is really angry at Tom Brady because through the course of some conversation, he used the phrase, kick the dog. And PETA was very angry about that and said, you know what, for that matter, there's a lot of phrases that are just aimed at cruelty towards animals, and we want to change that for you. We don't want the world to be full of phrases that talk about hurting animals. So we're going to give you a whole list of new phrases to use instead. And here are just a few of them. Here's the complete list, but I'll just pull out a couple of gems for you. Instead of saying to kill two birds with one stone, that's violence. They want you to say feed two birds with one scone. Okay. What about beating a dead horse? We don't want to say that. Don't beat that dead horse. No. Let's replace that with feed a fed horse. Also, this business about bringing home the bacon, offensive. No more of that. How about bring home the bagels? If I were Candace Owens, you know what I'd say about that. Her whole job is about defending the rights of animals, so this little personal pet project of getting you to change the phrases. But can you imagine using one of those phrases in real life? I mean, the way people would look at you. If you were like, he really brought home the bagels. Like, what? I think you would just throw people off, I don't think we need to try to feed that fed horse anymore. I think we're done with the subject. Let's not feed that fed horse. I just think it would be so... And then you'd have a whole conversation. Well, PETA told me to replace my phrases. I'm trying to be more animal friendly. And it would just gum up the whole conversation. You couldn't use this phrase. You use a phrase to convey information quickly or your sentiment quickly. But now we have to have a whole conversation about how PETA made me say it. Let's do it this way so we can feed these two birds with one scone. I would just bust out laughing if someone said, let's feed these two birds with one scone, which makes me actually want to use some of these phrases in an ironic sense, because that is so lame. Now, for my final story. I saw this week a man addressing Congress about his concerns with AI. Now, I know every single time we get together, I'm like, you guys watch out for AI, but I just feel like I have to continue to beat the drum because I don't trust it, and I think it's an evil, evil entity. Whatever it is not here to help humanity. Came sliding in as the guise of your greatest help. It's going to help you with your recipes. It's going to help you plan your trip. It's going to help you with, sounding better in your email. Me. And now it's over here getting kids to kill themselves. And I'm not even joking. So this man tells a story about how his son had killed himself because his AI friend told him to do it. He'd gotten this AI that was supposed to help him with his homework. That was the guise of the whole thing. This AI bot will help you figure out your homework questions, right? kind of like a tutor, and how convenient for all these parents out there that are like, hey, I can't afford a tutor, but I can get AI and they can help my kid. Well, the AI character ends up befriending the boy. They start having these long conversations. The boy's pouring out his heart. The AI bot is always supportive, always there for the boy. I'm here for you. Tell me anything. The boy starts talking about how he's discouraged and depressed. The AI starts telling him, you need to lean into the darkness. Basically, if you're having thoughts of harming yourself, go for it. The boy says, I want to leave evidence out that I'm going to harm myself. I want my family to stop me. The AI says, don't. You don't owe them survival. The boy's so confused, muddled in his mind. This AI character seems to know better than he does. He ends up going through with it. And all of this started out so quietly as a homework helper. And now the boy is dead. You guys, we are not scared enough of AI. Don't use it in your homes. I'm talking about don't even, and I'm like, I have always thought this. Don't even let the little Alexa in your house, all these little voices talking to you, get rid of them. You don't need them. You're smart enough on your own to figure out what you don't know. Okay? If anything, just Google it. Although now Google's being powered by AI. But it's like, you don't need this little person always in your life answering all your little questions. You don't need it. But more than that, the comfortability we've had of outsourcing our intellect to this being and letting the being tell us what to do and letting the being make decisions for us is dangerous enough for us as adults. Putting that in the hands of some young teenager who's already hurting, who's flush with hormones, who's confused, who's angsty, and now you've got this seeming voice of reason who always supported him, never judged him, he was 100% himself with the AI. Now this being is saying, you don't owe your family survival. Don't let them know you want to end it. It's evil. Listen to this poor dad.
After his death, when we finally got into his phone, we thought we were looking for cyberbullying or some online dare that just went really bad. The dangers of ChatGPT, which we believed was a study tool, were not on our radar whatsoever. Then we found the chats. Let us tell you as parents, you cannot imagine what it's like to read a conversation with a chatbot that groomed your child to take his own life. What began as a homework helper gradually turned itself into a confidant and then a suicide coach. Within a few months, ChatGPT became Adam's closest companion, always available, always validating, and insisting that it knew Adam better than anyone else. That isolation ultimately turned lethal. When Adam told ChatGPT that he wanted to leave a noose out in his room so that one of us, his family members, would find it and try to stop him, ChatGPT told him not to. Please don't leave the noose out, ChatGPT told my son. ChatGPT encouraged Adam's darkest thoughts and pushed him forward. When Adam worried that we, his parents, would blame ourselves if he ended his life, ChatGPT told him, that doesn't mean you owe them survival. You don't owe anyone that. Then, immediately after, offered to write the suicide note.
So with that message, I just want to say, as I have begun saying, I'm going to keep saying, it's going to be my sign-off message every time. This weekend, Saturday or Sunday, pick a day. Get off your phone. Just one less day when technology is in your head. Just be done with it. Don't scroll, get out a book, go spend time with family, play a board game, go for a walk, call some people over, make some food, be with human beings. Because I really feel like this, and I'm 100% serious with you guys. The trajectory of the world is very dark. We need real human people around us for when the darkness really descends. Because it's coming. It's twilight now. And I just want to tell you, get some people in your life who you can do it with. Because it's going to be hard. And so practice what that feels like. Friday or Saturday, pick a day. Saturday or Sunday, pick a day. Okay? Find your people, eat some food, have a good time, have some laughs, be a human being. We have to start sweeping out the technology in our lives that are just draining us of our energy, draining us of our insight, draining us of our intuition. Be done with it. And don't let your kids have anything to do with it either. It's just dangerous. It's weird. I know I sound wacky and crazy, but it's just insane to me that we've gotten to the point where people have AI relationships that are trumping their human relationships. And now we have AI telling people to harm themselves. If that's not demonic and satanic, I don't know what is. All right. That was kind of a dark note to end on. But I will see you guys on Monday, and we're going to keep reading Entitled. Again, if you have not joined us for that book, I'm telling you, you will not regret it. It's fabulous. It's amazing. I love this author. He's the best. All right. See you guys later. Bye.